Hey everyone, welcome again to From the Ground Up, a University of Chicago public policy podcast produced at Harris School of Public Policy, University of Chicago. First of all, a very happy new year and welcome back to season 2 of the winter quarter. It's snowing outside and it's super cold, so we decided to record from our respective homes. So it may sound a bit different, so let's blame collectively the snow for this. So in the virtual studio, we have with us Christian Guyona,
Howdy.
Hugo He,
Hello.
and Aridapo Aziz.
Oh, it was a pleasure to be here.
Welcome back, guys. So, how was your break? What did you all do, Christian?
My break was pretty uneventful. I stuck around here in Chicago. It was gloomy, it was gray, it was cold, it was rainy. I worked primarily with my teams on with my company, and that's about it. So very uneventful. I did follow some of the recent news and what was going on with COP28 and the implications of those decisions, but otherwise very uneventful.
Thank you, Hugo.
Yeah, I also just stay in Chicago most of the time. Some of my friends come visit me, so I got some company to do. But other than that, I kind of work on my own personal stuff most of the time.
All right. From two pretty uneventful holidays, we come to the most eventful holidays, perhaps. Dapo, how was your holidays?
Yeah, my break was pretty fantastic. I think I flew out to Kenya with a few other students through the Pearson Institute. We went on a global conflict studies trip and we met with locals, government officials, and American workers. We learned about Kenya's geopolitics. We learned about the changes that's been going on in Kenya over the last few years. They had an almost brand new constitution a few years ago, and they're still trying to figure out how best to make it work. So that was interesting. But more specifically related to our podcast, we met with an MP called Joseph Likutan, and he sponsored a bill called the Carbon Credit and Benefit Sharing Bill, which is supposed to be the framework by which Kenya deals with like the carbon credit. And he talked about the challenges of passing that bill, how the things he had to change. And it was interesting to learn how the climate change efforts is playing out in East Africa. The challenges of MPs like him or other politicians like him, they're very forward looking. So I found our conversations with him very interesting. I also think we were able to learn about what's playing out in the DRC and what players like Rwanda and Kenya are doing in the DRC and what is causing the conflict over there. We met with the U.S. Embassy. We met with the military contractors in the area. Also, like the MP, we met with other politicians and they shared their opinions about what is happening in the DRC. So that was interesting, gave me a new perspective. I definitely came back from the trip learning more about the continent that I come from, because I'm from Nigeria, but I've never been to any other African country. And I'm hoping that I might do a summer internship in East Africa. Hopefully that happens. But most importantly, I think I came back being way more knowledgeable about Africa than I was before I went, specifically Kenya.
That's amazing, Dapo. All right. So for me, I went to visit back home in India. I had a great time with family, refreshed, and looking forward for this quarter. So I understand it's gloomy outside, but what you guys are most excited about this quarter, and what do you plan on doing? What is on your plate, and what are you looking forward to the most, Christian?
I think it's a very exciting year. It's an election year. So one thing that's indirectly related, but related to policy agendas in regards to natural resources and energy, is that globally, 2024 is the year where the most democratic countries and therefore the largest percentage of people around the globe will be voting for the first time ever for their relative democracies. So I think that's pretty exciting. That has implications. So COP28, we were talking about that last time before we went on break, and we speculated the outcome. I made a little bit of a jab that we're spending all this jet fuel to get to Dubai, all these delegates and all these companies and persons and legislators going out there to discuss climate change initiatives, and they might not get anything done. And it seems that they did not really get anything concrete done. While there were protests and many statements made, there wasn't any new agreements set in stone for us to decrease our emissions by a certain date, rather just a framework to negotiate and work out later. But they dubbed it as the beginning of the end for fossil fuel era with nothing actually set in stone. So I am skeptical, as I was before then. Mother Nature is probably displeased that so many planes flew over to Dubai for this grand event for nothing to actually happen, but we will cross that bridge when we get there, and hopefully something will be done. In the meantime, the election outcomes for each country matter in the agenda that we set for climate change. For the United States, for example, it seems like we will have a repeat of the previous election. So President Biden pitted against former President Trump, and the administrations are different in that President Trump's administration was more friendly to fossil fuel companies such as petroleum and coal mining, particularly, whereas the Biden administration has leaned more towards renewable development, a lot of good measures baked into the Inflation Reduction Act, although more could be done. So depending on who wins the election, we could see a radical shift in that policy, whether it's a continuation of this or whether it is a regressive, arguably a regressive policy to revert back to fossil fuel dependent energy industry. So we will see. What I'm most excited about and outside of this area is that my company, TexChange Unbrokered, we will be visiting Duluth, Minnesota, also in part with this podcast, where we were invited for the winter dinner to speak to legislators in the area, particularly mining companies that focus on copper and nickel that is primarily produced in the state. So we will have a recording for that. We might have some, little short interviews with some mining executives out there. DAPO will be joining me, so that's really exciting. In addition, I will be headed again this year to the Mine Exchange. It will be held in Phoenix, Arizona, instead of Denver, Colorado. And this is where we intend to launch our company and make our debut. Now, what TexChange Unbrokered does is it allows for these private companies in these hard industries, to include mining, to buy and sell their materials and services without brokers. So to capture more profits and to increase their margins and their operational efficiency, which could and hopefully means more sustainable technologies on the front end, on the back end, upstream, that would allow us to extract minerals without emitting or fossil fuels or burning many fossil fuels. So those are a few things. There's a lot going on. We have an interview with Talon Metals Chief External Affairs Officer Todd Milan, who I spoke to over the break. We are also organizing a couple of events, nuclear policy and uranium mining, and a part 2 to our resources and development in Africa event, focused more on finance than the actual development of infrastructure and resources in Africa.
Thank you. For those of you who can't see, which are all of you, Christian looks really happy, so he's clearly excited for what he has on his plate. And Hugo, would you want to go next?
Yeah. I think the quarter is kind of like a certain start at the middle of the week, so I'm not ready for it yet. But I think I'm excited to learn like the second sequence of the stat of the econ and of the P. Looking forward for that. And personally, I think starting this quarter, I might look into some like personal research into energy stuff, maybe kind of using my data skill, learning more about it. But also, I'm starting a job with a neighborhood school program, trying to offer tutoring for like low income elementary school students around the community. So I'm also looking forward for that.
That's amazing. That's very, very good to know. Dapo?
Yeah, honestly, I think this quarter I'm going to take it slowly a little bit and, spend the time planning mostly for what my summer is gonna look like. I'm just gonna be taking my classes, also maybe doing a little more work from the ground up. Like Kristen mentioned, I'm going to be going to the conference in Minnesota. I might be going to another conference about African development at Harvard in February. So I'm very excited about that. It's going to be mostly, professional development for me this quarter.
That's amazing. So even I am looking forward to a couple of things. For me, apart from the coursework, I'm also trying to engage with a couple of people to find out some professional opportunities there and some professors to carry out research in the climate tech domain. So that's pretty interesting. And yeah, I'm looking forward to engaging with our listeners on From the Ground Up and seeing what exciting topics we can explore. All right, so this was a little prelude to what will be coming in the next quarter. And we just wanted to check in with you guys and say a big hello and a very happy new year. Looking forward to see you guys and engage with you guys more. Till then, take care, stay warm, and have a great time. This is From the Ground Up team signing off. Thanks a lot.